welcome back to another After Dark, everyone. Hope y'all having a good night so far. Hope you guys had a wonderful day. So I'm going down the members request again tonight, and this one leads me to a video from one of our favorite channels, one of my favorite channels, Basketball Universe, and this one's titled When Clyde Drexler and the Blazers Dominated the West, 1990 through 1992. And I thought this would be cool because honestly, I am very guilty of this. Not enough respect goes to Clyde Drexler, and this is one step in fixing that. So I'm glad I got this request, and I'm happy to fulfill this one because, you know, it's just unfortunate. Like, two guys right off the top of my head, Clyde Drexler, Dominique Wilkins, two guys who don't get nearly enough respect because Jordan ended up dominating the entire 90s, you know? So that's what everybody remembers. That's what everyone talks about. But meanwhile, this guy was, I mean, if Jordan wasn't in the league, this would be like one of the, you know, everyone would be talking about, like, is Clyde Drexler the greatest shooting guard of all time? You know, these conversations would have been happening in the late 80s and the 90s. But instead, the topic was Michael Jordan. But there was a point in 1992 before the finals where it was like, is Clyde Drexler as good or better than Jordan? But then that NBA finals just settled that whole argument, and we never looked back after that, really. But anyways, you guys, I wanted to check this out. So guys, like I always do, I'm going to link the original video from Basketball Universe down below in the description of this video. So go check out his channel if you haven't yet. I know most of you are already subscribed over there, but if you're not, you might want to go check out the channel because it's phenomenal. And you also see a list of channel members in the description. So I appreciate you guys. Like the video if you could. I'd appreciate it. And hit that hype. All that good stuff helps. And I thank you guys every time. Let's rock, huh?
The high-flying, incredibly entertaining, and astonishing Portland Trailblazers are a staple of 90s basketball. They burst into the scene and were one of the top championship contenders for 3 straight years. They had some memorable ups and some heartbreaking downs. What made them so special? What was their downfall? What was that one thing that took them to another level? This is an important question, especially if we consider how they performed in the 80s. The Clyde Drexler era officially started in the 1983 offseason when he was drafted 14th overall. During this era, they were an offensive powerhouse. In 4 straight seasons, they finished among the top 4 for the highest points per game. It was obvious that there was potential. What they lacked was consistency. They were average to below average in defense. They were always good enough to reach the playoffs, but they couldn't make any noise. In fact, they suffered 4 straight first-round exits. In the 1988-89 season, they had a 39-43 record, and they were swept by the Lakers in the first round. Something needed to change. They needed a new direction. They needed someone that would provide toughness and leadership. They acquired all of the above with one move. They traded Sam Bowie and a draft pick for Buck Williams. During his time with the New Jersey Nets,
I always liked it because we had Buck and then they had Duckworth at the same time.
He was an all-star.
I was young.
It
made me laugh.
He was a ferocious rebounder who relished on the defensive end. He had an old-school toughness to him. Now this team was complete. They jumped right out of the gate with a new...
How many of you guys went with the duo of Terry Porter and Clyde Drexler in NBA Jam back in the day? Very popular duo.
And tougher style of play. Their head coach Rick Adelman explained how much of an impact he had on this team. He added that toughness around the basket that we just didn't have at all. When he came, it was like the starting lineup was cemented. Buck was just a perfect fit for us. End of quote. The numbers also back up that claim. They went from 14th in defensive rating and 19th in opponent's field goal percentage to 4th in the league for both statistics. With this one addition, they increased their win total by 20 games. This is exactly why he was voted 10th for the MVP. The way he impacted this team could not be quantified with numbers, but he doesn't deserve all the credit. The reality that the Blazers quickly gained the reputation of being among the deepest teams in the league. Let's take a look at their roster. We start with one of the greatest shooting guards of all time, Clyde Drexler. We're going to talk a lot about his greatness during this video, so we won't go too in depth. Here's what we can say for now. In the previous 2 seasons, he established himself as a top 5 scorer. The numbers also suggest that he was the best facilitator and rebounder for his position. On top of that, he was an expert at forcing turnovers. He was consistently averaging over 2.5 steals during this time. The Blazers were super deep and athletic. His talent and unselfish nature was perfect for this roster. He was more than willing
nice switch of hands there
to decrease his scoring production for the good of the team. But every great player needs a Robin. For Clyde the Glide, that was Terry Porter.
Absolutely.
He was the engine for this high-power offense. He was a fantastic facilitator. He was someone who was great in the pick-and-roll setting. He was great at penetrating and finishing in traffic. He was a dangerous outside threat, and quite honestly, he was their best clutch player. He could fill any role that this team needed. Then there was Jerome Kersey. He was relentless, fearless, and he played with an aggression that could only be compared to a handful of players. Saying that he played at 110% for every possession doesn't do him justice. When he was on the open floor, there was no one that ran and dunked as hard as him. Jeez. He was someone that could jump out of the building. Once he developed a mid-range jumper, it was over for everyone. He was truly one of their most important pieces. Then we have another fan favorite, Kevin Duckworth.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I always remember seeing a fan holding up a sign that says, "How much is a duck worth?" And it's still, like, I mean, come on, that was like 1992 or 93 or something like that. So we're talking 30 some odd years later. It's still like so vivid in my memory.
For a full of legendary big men, he often gets overlooked, but he was a very good offensive player. He had great footwork, and he was someone who could spread the floor with his outside shooting. He was also a respectable rebounder and an underrated passer. In many instances, their exciting fast break finishes started with his outlet pass. As far as their bench, there's 2 players that I want to highlight that explains perfectly how deep they were. They had Drazen Petrovic. He was coming off the bench.
Very underutilized, unfortunately. They didn't know what to do with him or how to use him properly.
And lighting it up from the outside. Then we have Clifford Robinson.
Yeah.
He was a rookie during the 1989-90 season, and he wasted no time in making an impact.
Yeah, I liked him.
At first, it was on the defensive end. His length and athleticism allowed him to guard players out on the perimeter and to bother players in the post. It's not an exaggeration to say that he was capable of guarding all 5 positions. Once he developed his skills as a scorer, he was widely recognized as one of the league's top bench players. Once you break down all the talent they had, you could understand why they were able to make that leap so quickly. They were just overwhelming teams with their youth and athleticism. Now with the proper guidance, they knew how to win games. They had a 59-23 record, which was tied for the second best in the league. For some of the critics, they were too good, too fast. Were they ready to put behind their previous playoff failures? After completely dismantling the Dallas Mavericks in the first round, their first test came against the San Antonio Spurs. David Robinson might have been a rookie, but the 24-year-old was already playing at an MVP level. This was a deep squad, and it resulted in them winning 56 games. This was going to be a tough matchup. They both defended their home floor, and this set up one of the most forgotten playoff classics. The Blazers came out swinging first. They were up by 19 points at the end of the first half, but the Spurs stormed their way back, and it took 2 overtimes to decide this game. But Portland made some big plays down the stretch. They were led by the 2 star guards. Terry Porter had 38 points on 68% shooting, along with going 5 of 9 from the 3. But Clyde had himself a fantastic all-around performance.
Back then, shooting like that percentage, and bombing 9 threes, that's rare.
He had 35 points on 54% shooting.
Beautiful.
9 assists, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals. It's one of the greatest games of his playoff career. The series was later pushed to a Game 7. This was a critical moment, and there were those who wondered if they were good enough to come through as constructed. At this point, Kevin Duckworth didn't play a single game in this series after breaking his hand in the first round. Before the game started, Portland had their own Willis Reed moment.
But there was a tremendous response just moments ago when Kevin Duckworth came out, the starting center for the Portland Trail Blazers, got this reaction.
Yes, sir.
The energy in that stadium went to another level, and the Blazers rode that momentum.
The guy's got a broken hand, and he's still going to help out his team. Kevin Durant. What you got to say about that?
The game. It was an intense back and forth battle. The Spurs seemed to have control, and they had a 7-point lead with 2 minutes left. And they scored 7 unanswered points that tied the game and forced overtime. The Spurs made too many mistakes down the stretch, and the Blazers capitalized. Their season was alive, and their title hopes seemed even more real. The team that they faced in the conference finals was the Phoenix Suns.
What up, KJ?
They shocked the sports world after defeating Magic Johnson and the Lakers in 5 games.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't going to be as daunting of a task, but they still had their work
That felt good, by the way.
cut out for them. For this series, they had a variety of players that stepped up in the clutch. In Game 1, the hero was Kevin Duckworth, who made this shot that broke the tie. Then Danny Young made this huge block that secured the victory. In Game 2, they were down by 22 points. Behind their explosive offense, they completed the biggest playoff comeback of the entire decade. The hero of this game was Terry Porter, who made 2 clutch shots in the final 30 seconds that gave them a 2-0 series lead.
Yeah, shout out to Terry Porter, man. He even came to coach the Suns for a little while. Always been a big fan of him. Very underappreciated.
In Game 6, the Blazers were down by 1 point in the final minute, and it was Jerome Kersey that made this huge block and layup that took the lead. They made some big stops on the defensive end, and they were on their way to the first finals appearance since 1977.
And as you guys can see at this point, I know this video is about Clyde Drexler, but dude, the Blazers team was way better on paper, in my opinion, than the Bulls. Like, as far as the fullness of their team and the contributors, like, the only difference was really Bulls had Jordan. That was the difference maker. But put Jordan on the Blazers, and I think they would have destroyed the Bulls if they would have switched places.
It was a remarkable turnaround, considering that they had a losing record in the previous year. But their sights were out winning the title. Their opponent was the defending champions, the Detroit Pistons. After they stole home court advantage at Game 2, it seemed like a real possibility. Terry Porter even made the bold claim that they wouldn't return to Detroit. They had the confidence, but they lacked experience.
I know, and after this series, man, I'm glad eventually Clyde got his. I'm sad it didn't get to happen in Portland, though. I really wanted to see him eventually win one in Portland.
The Pistons demonstrated poise and they made so many clutch plays in Games 4 and 5. The Blazers, on the other hand, kept making mistakes in crucial moments. It was the opposite of what they displayed all postseason.
What up, Bill?
The knockout blow came when Vinnie Johnson made the ultra-rare title-seaaling jumper. It was a devastating way to end their season. But on the bright side, this was only the beginning. They knew they had something special and their best was yet to come. What they needed was someone with championship experience. They got that after trading for Danny Ainge in the offseason.
Yeah.
They got even more experience.
I always think of the irony of Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge gets hired as a hired gun with the Blazers. They go to the finals. They lose to Jordan. Then he goes to the Phoenix Suns as a hired gun. And by the way, he's playing great both seasons. Goes to the finals with the Suns, lose to Jordan. Like, I feel so bad for Danny Ainge, man. Actually, I don't. I'd feel bad for Danny Ainge if he didn't have all that success with the Boston Celtics prior to this. Never mind. He already got his. What about Drazen? Drazen's my boy, man. There we go.
They got even more experience after trading Petrovic for Phoenix Suns legend Walter Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Now there was no question.
Yeah, we retired
this was
his jersey.
The deepest team in the NBA. They might not be the first team that you think of when talking about the greatest team of the 90s, but the numbers indicate that they had one of the most dominant seasons. They won 63 games. They had an 8.5 net rating. They had an
I don't think that there's something wrong with Drazen, guys. Drazen's NBA career, as we know it, was just about to start. Thanks to that trade was really important. He was miserable sitting on the bench. And obviously, if you see the rest of his NBA career, which was unfortunately taken away, it ended way too early for tragic reasons. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. He needed to be unleashed in a starting lineup, and that's exactly what came next. And it was beautiful to watch him play. But yeah, it wasn't working with the Blazers for whatever reason. Rick Adelman couldn't figure out a way to incorporate him into that starting lineup for whatever reason.
Simple rating system, which is in the top 25
That
among
shot's
all
stupid.
teams of the shot clock era. They had 7 players that averaged in double figures. They had 3 players that were all-stars: Drexler, Terry Porter, and Kevin Duckworth. They started the year going 19-1. During that stretch, there was one game that is a perfect representation of what Portland basketball was all about. It was against the Spurs. In the first quarter, they scored 49 points. They moved the ball beautifully as they had 18 assists. Let's not forget that this happened to a team that finished first in defensive rating, and it didn't matter. When they were all clicking, they were unstoppable. They also finished the season with a 16-game winning streak. They finished the year red hot, and they had the best record in the league. To this day, this is the only time that the Blazers have won over 60 games. For many experts, they were the favorites to win the title. For the playoffs, their first round matchup was a 41-41.
I just want you to hear that again. That way you don't think, oh, you're just a MJ shill, blah, blah, blah. It's not just, it's facts. It is what it is. You got 3 All-Stars going against 1 All-Star in the finals. Who's favored? What do you think?
To win the title.
Wait, say it again. Say it again, please.
For 60 games. For many experts, they were the favorites to win the title.
Thank you.
For the playoffs, their first round matchup was a 41-41 Seattle Supersonics. They swept their season series, and that's how many figured this series would go after winning the first 2 games. But on the road, there were signs that they weren't ready to take that next step. They were being outplayed by the 8 seed.
Hey, man, but for an 8 seed, these Sonics were fantastic. As you know, a couple years later, they'd be in the NBA Finals themselves.
In Game 4, the Blazers missed a total of 19 free throws.
Oof.
This was not the way the title favorites were supposed to come out of the gate. They took care of business in the deciding Game 5, but there were question marks if they totally learned their lesson from the previous year. In the semifinals against the Utah Jazz, they looked like their old selves again in Game 1. They had a dominant 20-point victory.
Dang, what a
In Game
throwdown.
2, there were some more alarming signs. They held a 21-point lead with 7 minutes remaining, and the Jazz came all the way back to tie the game. But it was Terry Porter that saved them from disaster, and he made the game-winning shot. This was Utah's only true shot of making this a competitive series, as the Blazers were able to eliminate them in 5 games. This set up the matchup between the 2 best teams in the West.
Yeah, this was a great series.
Johnson and the Lakers owned the conference during the entire 80s, and they were looking to continue this trend. But for the first time in his career, his team wouldn't have home court advantage in the conference finals. He proved right away that it didn't mean a thing. They went into Portland and took home court advantage.
Look at that.
Between 1990 to
Look at that. Look at the whole team. Hold on.
They went into Portland.
Watch all the Blazers' eyes, okay? I don't want to make a million green marks on the screen. Just watch the eyes of the Blazers.
Took home court advantage.
Gotcha.
Between 1990 to 1992, it was their only playoff loss to a Western Conference opponent, and it couldn't have come
Nice
at a
pass.
worse spot. Although they tied the series, they simply looked lost in games 3 and 4. The Lakers had a lot of long and versatile players that disrupted Portland's offense. During the regular season, they were number 1 in three-pointers made in efficiency. They shot nearly 38% for the regular season. In this series, they were contained to 29%.
Wow.
Then there was Magic Johnson, who completely took apart their defense. In Game 3, he had a vintage performance. He posted 19 assists, along with 14 points and 7 rebounds. After suffering a 21
Say it again.
assists, along in Game 3, he had a vintage performance. He posted 19 assists, along with 14 points and 7 rebounds.
Damn.
After suffering a 21-point beatdown in Game 4, all hope seemed gone. Buck Williams summed it up perfectly when he said, "Magic is killing us. When we double him, he just picks us apart. We either have to play him straight up or get the ball out of his hands before he backs it down in the paint."
But don't forget the Jordan haters and the LeBron fans, they all say that Magic was washed. He was too old. What was he, 31 years old? And yeah, you hear the narrative? The actual truth, not the narrative, was this guy was second in MVP voting. He was cooking everybody. Magic was just fine, man. He was great to play another 5 or 6 years if it wasn't for the HIV virus.
End of quote. But the Blazers showed some fight. They took the series back to LA and they're playing them tough in Game 6. They trailed most of the game, but they made their attack in the fourth quarter. But sometimes it comes down to one play. With less than 1 minute left in the game,
I kind of want to go back and watch some of this series. I remember watching this like a hawk when I was younger. Great series.
they're down by 1. They force a turnover.
Dude, what good basketball. And on the other side of this, we have the Bulls versus Pistons. Like, freaking A, man. Bring it back.
With less than 1 minute left in the game, they're down by 1. They force a turnover and they have a 4-1 break. There is no excuse to either score or head to the free throw line.
Agree. Alley-oop.
Instead, they turn the ball over. That play would be monumental. They still have one last chance to save their season. Then this happened.
It's no good. Lakers win. Magic's got it.
Magic
throws
with the
it down
rebound.
the floor. 1 second, and it goes out of bounds. And the Lakers with 1/10 of a second.
I always wonder why more people don't do this. At the end of a game, chuck the ball.
Happened.
It's no good.
Look
Lakers
at this. Just chuck it.
win. Magic's got it. Throws it down the floor. 1 second, and it goes out of bounds.
Or there's also throw the ball extremely high up in the air, as high as you can, and let the clock burn out. It'll burn out before it lands on the ground. Yet I see nobody does this, but they're Magic's freaking smart as hell, man.
And the Lakers with 1/10 of a second
0.1.
are on their way to Chicago.
It was a genius play by Magic. The Blazers lost by 1 point. In the end, it was a difference between the two teams. The Blazers were better on paper, but the Lakers had Magic. It was another brutal end to their season.
Yeah.
For many fans, this was their best chance of winning the title. But they were
This makes me feel bad for these guys, man, because if you all know what's about to come.
outplayed again by a team full of championship experience. If that's not bad enough, there were all the criticisms that Drexler was receiving. There are some who claim that he didn't work hard enough and was too undisciplined for his team to win a championship. Then there was a time when the committee was selecting the first 10 players that will participate in the USA basketball team for the 1992 Olympics. Clyde Drexler was not selected. He had a lot to prove to his doubters that were questioning his greatness. This surely motivated him to have the greatest season of his career. He went on to average 25 points on 47% shooting,
Nice
6.7 assists, 6.6 rebounds, and 1.8 steals per game.
Nice.
His play was so impressive throughout the year that he finished second in MVP voting. He was at the point of his career where his brains matched his incredible athletic ability, and that's what made him such.
That's why, narratives aside, you guys, we were so lucky. We had the best players with the best teams going at it in the NBA Finals, year after year after year. It was awesome. Forget what all the narratives say. You remember the reality.
A dangerous player. During his younger years, he would often play too fast, which would cause him to make some head-scratching decisions. But he showed a lot of improvements in his shot selection, passing, and taking fewer risks on the defensive end in order to get steals. In the end, he led the team in points, assists, and steals.
Nice.
The fact that he was both a shooting and passing threat in the post
I agree.
gave the Blazers a great advantage. This allowed Portland to have the best record in the West, and
What the hell is that?
Blazers a great advantage.
What the hell was that pass? That's hard.
To have the best record in the West, and they were tied for the second best record overall. In the playoffs, Clyde continued his dominant play. In Game 3 of the first round series against the Lakers, he had 42 points on 61% shooting, 12 assists, 9 rebounds, and 2 steals. In the second round against the Suns, he averaged the impressive stat line of 31.4 points on 51% shooting, 8.2 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.8 steals, and 1.6 blocks per game.
Yeah.
In the conference finals,
So this is right before we got Charles Barkley, by the way.
he used a more balanced attack to defeat Karl Malone, John Stockton, and the Utah Jazz. Take for example what Terry Porter did in Game 2. He had 41 points on 86% shooting, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals. Did you know that this is the most efficient 40-point game in playoff history?
No. Wow.
This was a part of his greatness. Whenever he caught fire, performances like these was always a possibility. It should also be noted that he outplayed John Stockton that series. He was held to under 40% shooting, while Porter averaged a team high 26 points on 55% shooting, 8.3 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. He also shot 53% from the 3. This played a huge part in the outcome of this series. Then there was a thrilling Game 5 matchup. With the series tied at 2 apiece, the Blazers had 4 players that scored over 20 points. It went to overtime, and they were able to pull away with a victory. They later went to Utah and clinched their second finals appearance in 3 years. This cemented them as a true force for the NBA's early 90s era.
Yep.
In the finals, they faced the team of the 90s, the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
For many people, this was the greatest version of any of their 6 title-winning teams. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
Hey, yeah. I'm one of those guys.
Were at the peak of their careers. At first, the media was hyping up the matchup between the league's 2 best shooting guards. Jordan had the first laugh as he opened up the series with the infamous shrug game. That's what everyone seems to think about when talking about this series.
And by the way, I don't pick the 92 Bulls because on paper they're the greatest. Like if you look at the stat line and whatnot, it's not that. It's the team defense. The team defense, so it's the intangibles, the stuff that stat line does not tell the story about the type of defense I'm talking about these Bulls having. Offensively, it was highly carried by Michael Jordan. But defensively, Jordan led the charge, but man, everyone did their job so damn well on defense. And, bottom line, offense is fun for the regular season. Defense wins championships.
But people forget how tough they played the Bulls. They were down by 10 points late in the fourth quarter of Game 2, and they stormed all the way back to force overtime.
Yeah, it didn't go 6 games for nothing. But, everyone likes to remember, the first half of Game 1 was phenomenal and explosive, a crazy Jordan moment. But it didn't mean that the Blazers were easy and they just died. They were battling to the very end.
They later beat the Bulls by 11 points. Let's not forget that Clyde was on the bench during that whole run since he fouled out. In Game 4, they outpaced Chicago in the fourth quarter. They outscored them by 8 points and held them without a single point in the final 10 minutes.
Defense wins championships. I mean, defense versus defense here. It's beautiful.
At this point, the series could have gone either way. That was when Michael Jordan had one of his most underrated performances in Game 5. He scored 46 points on 61% shooting. Then in Game
61.
6, the Blazers were up by 15 points at the start of the fourth quarter. That was when Phil Jackson infamously went with 4 reserves, and the Blazers couldn't capitalize. They were able to cut the lead to 3 points, and the starters finished the job. It was another frustrating way to end their season. Too many times, they just got in their own way. Although that's part of the story, that's not their lasting legacy. Over 30 years later, and this team is remembered for how exciting they were to watch. They were legitimately a great team that gave us so many iconic moments. What do you remember the most about this era of the Blazers? What do you think was the biggest reason why they couldn't win a title? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, man, I'll keep it quick on the outro. It's a great video, by the way, guys. Link is down below in the description. Go check out the channel, Basketball Universe. I mean, to me, it's not that they did anything wrong. The only thing they did wrong was they were in the wrong era. You know what I mean? Like that era. It was Eastern dominance, the Western dominance had ended with the Pistons basically, and then the Pistons was a handoff to the Bulls, and then it was basically Eastern dominance all the way until the Bulls broke up, and then we went on an insanely long run of Western dominance. So, and the only outlier is you got one for D Wade, and the Heat, and you got one for the Pistons. Outside of that, it's just West crushing the hell out of everything. But in this time, it was the East, and all the heavy hitters were there. And by the time Jordan was gone, Clyde was moving on. So he was moving on to a different team with the Rockets, and but he did win a championship there. I'll always wish the Portland Trailblazers won during this era, with Clyde, with Duckworth, with Kersey, with Porter, all these guys, but it just never happened. So I'm glad he got one on his way out, but it never felt the exact same as it would have, you know, if he won it there. Kind of like for me, seeing Sean Marion win one in Dallas was, you know, it didn't, I'm happy for him, but it didn't hit the same way as if he would have won, you know, in Phoenix, where he spent pretty much his entire career. But anyways, all that being said, this team, I feel the exact same way I feel about the 93 Suns, the 92-93 Suns, which is wrong time. Just that's it. Just the wrong time. What are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're not gonna beat Prime Jordan. It is what it is. So anyways, you guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the comments. Leave a like on the way out if you could. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and most importantly is to be water, my friends. Peace out.